What's going on, everybody? I'm Primalliquid and welcome to my guide for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. In this video, we are going to be going over the ultimate hard mode setup. This means equipment, materia combinations, everything to ensure that you have the smoothest possible chance of getting through all 14 chapters on hard mode. So, let's talk about it, shall we? And first and foremost, we're actually going to talk about the characters. Now, the reason I bring characters up is, yes, obviously the earlier chapters, you are only going to have a few of the characters, but then as you start getting through, you can then change your party up a little bit more. Now, when it comes to the party in question, each character does have their pros and their cons. So obviously you've got Cloud, all-round character, can do a little bit of everything, pretty decent folios, so not really one to be really looked down on. Then we have Tifa. Now, Tifa is a monster and a really strong character. First of all, aside from the fact that she has really insane physical attack, her main abilities as well pretty much are entirely designed around increasing the stagger damage that you deal to enemies. And obviously, that is definitely a big benefit. So I would definitely recommend having Tifa in the party when available, just because getting a higher stagger multiplier means you're going to be killing things that much faster. And hey, the quicker you kill things, the less chance you have of actually dying. And then we move on to Yuffie. Now, Yuffie serves basically one main purpose. Aside from the fact she has some really good abilities like Windstorm, she's also a character that can basically deal all elemental types of damage without materia being equipped, and she can do so rather effortlessly and at range using her ninjutsu. This means you can target weaknesses pretty much effortlessly, which allows you to then pressure and stagger easier. But aside from that, she is also quite strong and she has some good synergy abilities as well. Now, my main go-to party for hard mode is Cloud, Tifa, and Yuffie. Realistically, you could swap some characters out depending on what you want to do, but this is just what works for me. But let's talk about the other characters. So Aerith is definitely a really good spellcaster and arguably the best spellcaster in the game. Her abilities are really focused around that as well. She has a really good way to get MP back, allowing her to cast in hard mode a lot more than other characters typically can, because remember, in hard mode you cannot use items and rest stops will not restore your MP. So any way that you can regenerate MP is always a benefit, and that's where Aerith really shines. Now, realistically, running through hard mode, you're going to avoid a lot of random encounters, and you're only really going to be fighting mandatory fights and bosses. This does lessen the impact of Aerith a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. But then you also cannot deny her level 3 limit breaks either. The level 2 is also phenomenal. So Aerith is definitely a really strong contender, especially while you get used to playing hard mode with the extra incoming damage and so on and so forth. Then we have Red 13. Now, Red 13 has a ton of health. He's good both physically and magically. His dodge is pretty good, but I think the best thing for Red, okay, is first, he has an ability to haste the entire party. He has an ability to heal the entire party, and he has Stardust Ray. Now, Stardust Ray is absolutely one of the best abilities in the game. It deals really good damage no matter what enemy it is used against. It hits multiple times, and it has really decent AoE radius. This means any mobs with extra parts and stuff like that are all going to be taking damage from Stardust Ray. And obviously, with haste on, you can get 2 ATB bars incredibly effortlessly. Honestly, you probably could throw in Red instead of Yuffie if you really wanted to. There's very little difference between these two characters, other than Yuffie can pressure and stagger a little bit easier. Then we have Barret. Now, Barret is a tankier version of Yuffie. However, in my opinion, his utility is a little worse overall. You see, realistically, you don't really want to be taking as much damage in hard mode as you can, which means you are going to want to get better at perfect guards and dodging. So even though Barret is definitely a better, tankier unit, he's the best tank in the game, you don't really want to be having to utilize those features if you can help it. Taking no damage is a lot better than taking reduced damage. However, if you do struggle with the timing for perfect blocks or you're not very good at dodging, I would definitely throw Barret in with the Provoker Materia just so he can actually take up all the damage for you. And then we have Cait Sith. Now, Cait Sith is obviously a late game character, and you also can't use him during the final chapter, which does kind of ruin his usefulness. However, he does serve two good purposes. Firstly, there's his dice roll. Now, the dice roll has a multitude of effects, some good, some not so amazing, but they can serve well in a pinch. The main reason for Cait Sith is Moogle Punch. Now, Moogle Punch, just like Tifa, will increase the multiplier on staggered enemies, allowing you to deal more damage easier. And then, of course, you do also have slots with him as well, but he is also a strong physical character, and his magical attack is not too shabby either. And then, of course, his limit break does incredibly good damage as well. So not really one to be laughed at, but probably one that you're not really going to use all that much. So let's talk about equipment and materia now that we've gone over the pros and the cons for the characters. Of course, you don't have to use the same party as me. You can mix it up if you want, and obviously some chapters you are going to have to change your party based on what characters are available. Now, when it comes to equipment, okay, there's really only a few things we need to do. First of all, Ketran Bracer, Ketran Armlet, and Celestial Bangles. These are going to be the best armors for all characters. Now, obviously, you can only get one Ketran Bracer and one Ketran Armlet. However, you can get as many Celestial Bangles as you actually want, so I suggest having all characters with Celestial Bangles, and then obviously two of your main party having the Ketrans, swapping them out each chapter as needed. In terms of accessories, you definitely want to have defense increasing accessories. So I've got the Fortitude Ring and the Karmic Cowl on Cloud and Tifa right now. I've not gone ahead and made the upgraded version of the Karmic Cowl just yet because you don't really need it for the early hard mode stages. But the main reason for these is, first of all, the Fortitude Ring increases Vitality and Spirit by 50. That is an insanely good boost to your survivability. And then the Karmic Cowl is essentially the same, only the base version is increased vitality and spirit by 30, and it grants immunity to slow and instant death. The upgraded version increases your vitality and spirit by 50, and if I remember correctly, I want to say it actually gives a couple more resistances as well. Now, resistances are incredibly good in the later chapters for hard mode, but again, you're not going to be really seeing much use out of them early. The main purpose of this is just going to be for the vitality and spirit. But again, feel free to mix up the accessories as you want. Some other good ones are some of the Genji equipment for, you know, reducing damage, increasing your damage, and so on and so forth. Or you can go for a more limit-focused build where you just focus on getting level 3 limits out as soon as possible. But again, your mileage may vary. It all depends on your individual playstyle. Weapons, again, same, depends on really what you want. Ideally, you want to try and get a mix between physical attack and magic. Make sure you have as many linked slots as you require, but other than that, it's kind of just visual more than anything. So, let's talk materia. Now, there are some materia that you absolutely require, and there are some that are optional and will depend on the situation. So first of all, let's talk about elemental materia. So elemental materia you are going to have on your main 3 party members. Sometimes it will be in your weapon, sometimes it will be in your armor. The main reason for elemental, okay, is first of all, you deal elemental damage without consuming MP, and you don't need AP for it either, allowing you to pressure and stagger easier. And of course, you will deal extra damage. Now, obviously, I've got it linked with fire and ice. You don't want to do that because some enemy might be strong to fire, but then weak to ice. that kind of offsets the usefulness. So definitely go for a more single focused attribute materia. And again, always try and match it to the boss's weakness. Now, on some fights where you are going to be taking very heavy magical damage or very heavy elemental damage, definitely throw this on your armor, because once you get elemental to level 3, you will absorb that damage taken. Now, when it's in your armor, then you want to use the dual elemental materials, because then you would absorb both fire and ice, wind and thunder, and so on and so forth. Now, you can get 3 elemental materials in. If you wanted to, you could have them all on your armor to basically protect you against every element. As fun as it sounds, that's not really all that useful, because you still have to contend with physical damage and so on and so forth. Definitely go for a more damage approach until you absolutely cannot survive a fight. Then we have Magnify with healing. Again, you can acquire 3 Magnify materia, not including the one that you get in the flashback. So with this, what I do is I've got 2 with healing. So I have 2 party members that can AoE heal in case of emergencies. And I also have 1 with the time materia. Now, realistically, I would probably swap one of these healings out for a barrier. However, that's not needed for me just yet, so I haven't done that. I've just got them both on healing. However, this does overlap with something else which we also use. The main purpose of this is basically regen and an instant cure if needed. And then, of course, that is basically the same on the other characters as well. Now, let's talk about absolute mandatory materials. So these materials you are absolutely going to use on every character, and in fact, as you can see, I've already got them set up the entire same throughout all 7 characters. All 7 of these characters should definitely have these materia. You don't need them mastered, however, definitely have them a higher level, because obviously as you are going through the game, you are also going to be getting AP on hard mode as well. So if a couple need, 100 or 200 more AP, that's not the issue. You are going to get some levels going through hard mode. So first of all, we have MP up materia. Obviously, you cannot really regenerate MP in hard mode. Items and rest benches do not work, which also means the more MP you have, the more you can cast. And obviously, magic is incredibly potent in Rebirth, so you definitely want as much MP as you can possibly get. HP up is pretty obvious. You want to survive. More HP, more chances of survivability. We have revival materia, so any time you get a death, which does happen on hard mode, it's very, very easy to lose a character on hard mode. You definitely want the ability to revive them. So having everybody with revival is definitely mandatory in my opinion. Then we have healing materia. Everybody needs a way to heal, so definitely worthwhile having a unit of that mastered on everybody. We have steadfast block materia, which what this does is you basically take way less damage and you get a large ATB boost when guarding. This is pretty much mandatory for hard mode and clearing fights semi-quickly. Then we are pairing that with a precision defense focus materia. This extends the input for the precision defenses when guarding, making that a little bit easier. You'll increase your stagger damage after perfect guarding, and you can also prevent those annoyingly horrible binding attacks. Binding attacks on hard mode will rip you to shreds, so you definitely want to be very, very careful with that, and these two make a perfect combination, so definitely feel free to equip them. And then last but not least, we have prayer materia. This is a party-wide AoE heal, and you absolutely want to have this. First of all, it's a heal with no MP. It does require, obviously, ATB, but it's still another source of healing, which is vitally, vitally important in hard mode. So definitely worthwhile to have. Now, let's talk about some other useful materia. So obviously, as you can see right here, I have my Magnify and Elemental on my 3 main party. You're always going to have your Elemental and Magnify on your active party. Unfortunately, you can only get 3 of each in the game, so you are going to have to keep swapping them around. These other materia are mandatory, and now let's take a look at some optionals. So first of all, we have the warding materia. This is incredibly, incredibly good for avoiding debuffs, and some of the fights are definitely going to be very debuff heavy, so this will have its uses. You're not going to have this on permanently, but it will definitely have its uses for sure. Likewise, you can also get a ribbon to equip, but unfortunately getting a ribbon does require a bit more effort. And realistically, if you can get the ribbon, chances are you already are either mostly done with hard mode or you're very far through hard mode, because getting ribbon is absolutely a lot harder than hard mode. Then we have the enemy skill materia. This is quite nice with things like plasma discharge. It has a nice healing ability. You've got bad breath, or rancid breath as it's called in this game, and of course you get the stat boost as well from having it maxed. Not required, but definitely very, very helpful, especially as there's also, I can't remember the name of the ability off the top of my head, but there is an ability that gives you bravery and faith when used as well. Definitely worthwhile having if you can spare a slot in a particular fight. Then we have the ATB Stagger. So this is a large ATB boost on staggering foe. I definitely recommend having this equipped on your non-controlled unit. So if you prefer to control one unit more than others, have this equipped on the AI party members. This will definitely serve you really, really well and allow you to get way more ATB slots, especially allowing you to build up your synergy UCs. And we have ATB Assist Materia. Now, this one, okay, you want on your main controlled unit. Large ATB increases for allies when repeating command 2 times. Now, this is why I like using Cloud, because we have Focused Thrust and Triple Slash, both incredibly, incredibly good abilities. So whenever I use those abilities twice in a row, my allies get a large ATB boost, further allowing me to use stronger abilities much, much easier. And then, of course, there's the First Strike Materia. This allows you to start the fight with a full ATB bar, allowing you to get your buffs up, do a little bit of early damage, and so on and so forth. It's pretty self-explanatory, that one is. We have Re-Raise. So this is essentially auto life. It's not really incredibly mandatory, but there are some fights where it will serve helpful, where you just absolutely get wailed on incredibly, incredibly quickly. Or fights like Odin, where, you know, they have instant death attacks. Of course, you could always revive those characters if you wanted to, but Re-Raise just adds a little bit of security. It is, however, expensive on the MP, so you'd have to really think about if you want to use it or not. And then, of course, we have Fortification Materia. Now, this goes along really nicely with Barrier. This is just Protect and Shall. So, you know, it kind of is again self-explanatory. It's just more defense for you to build up, so it becomes sort of what you want to do on your playstyle. You can either go full glass cannon, where you take way more damage than required but do way more damage, or you can do the turtle method, where it's a little bit slower to get through hard mode, but it is much safer and you have a higher chance of succeeding with a lower skill ceiling required. Now, me personally, I go for a mix of both, but of course it all depends on the individual player, aka you. And of course, you are going to have to mix and match as required when you are going through as well. But though, guys, that is it for my hard mode build. Hopefully this will allow you to clear all 14 chapters on hard mode, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Of course, if it helps, then please be sure to smash that like button and drop a comment down below. Let me know if your hard mode build is similar, or if it's the same, or if it's entirely different. I want to know if you are going to use this build or not. Like, I'm really curious. And of course, if you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more content. As always, though, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.